Okay, let's talk some Mavs Thunder Game 3, because I want to talk about it now. I know the Cavs and the Celtics play tonight, or maybe the game already happened, depending on when you're seeing this. If the Celtics lose the game, or if they lost the game, then there will be another video from me on that game. But yeah, let's talk this one now. Two straight pretty damn good games in this series. We'll talk about, PJ Washington, again, being dared to make shots, and he is making shots, my goodness. We'll say a lot of things about Kyrie and the way he was, making a lot of good plays as a passer in this one, but then he had to turn it up in the fourth quarter as a scorer. But I would like to talk about Dallas's defense and what they were doing, where they were putting their centers and all that stuff. Although it should be said, Dallas, they had 15 offensive rebounds. We all knew going into this that was just going to have to be something that OKC deals with. I mean, they choose to be this smaller, really athletic team that has Chet and four perimeter players around him the majority of the time, when sometimes that means you're going to give up offensive rebounds. Okay, on to the defense. So I was fixated pretty much off the jump with where are the Mavs putting their centers? Where are they putting Gafford and Lively defensively? Now, Giddey started the game. He also had a couple minutes later on. And so, okay, when he's in the game, obviously they're going to be on him. He played 13 minutes. They were using him as like a screen setter or a DHO guy. And you know what? There was a little more success in this game with the Giddey minutes than there was in the previous game. But still, he played 13 minutes. But then what we would see is like Hardaway or PJ Washington on Chet. And yes, Hardaway was on Chet for some possessions later on in the game. In the last 3 or 4 minutes, Lively was on Chet pretty much full time. But throughout the game, it was a mix of things. Some possessions, it's going to be Gafford or Lively helping off a Giddey, or even helping off a Wiggins for possessions. And then a wing or a guard on Chet. And so they're switching the Chet SGA actions or Chet J-Dub actions. And then you're also having the extra help coming. And, just one play to sum it up for me was a play that wasn't super loud. It's not the first play you're going to remember from this game. That'd probably be the Kyrie lefty hook, or one of the lobs that Dallas had that was huge. But no, it was a play where Hardaway switches a Chet SGA screen. I believe this was in the fourth quarter. And then SGA drives on Hardaway because he likes that matchup. Why wouldn't you? Then Lively helps pretty hard off of Wiggins in the corner. And this leads to SGA taking a pull-up two that he's made a million times, but it wasn't as comfortable because Lively was right there, right? And I felt like that type of play happened a number of times. And OKC, they did try some things throughout the game to try to deal with it. I mean, one time, Chet just rolled after the screen really hard, and he was able to finish at the rim. And, I mean, Lively came over and had a good contest, but Chet had a little bit of room beforehand on the roll. Another time, Chet got a putback when I think he had Hardaway all over him on one play. So, that's some ways you can counter it. But also what OKC tried to do in this one was a number of plays where they would have whoever was guarded by the center run an action with Chet to get the center back onto Chet, and then Chet would screen for SGA, which then would result in typically more of typical defense, big dropping back, although even then Gafford ended up switched on to SGA for a couple plays in this one. They also did that with J-Dub, and that was how J-Dub got at least one pull-up two that I remember, just going at Gafford. And then as that was happening, I thought Derrick Jones Jr., just as the game was going on, was getting a little more used to guarding SGA in one-on-ones. Well, SGA was still good. We'll talk about him a little more in a second. There were also some number of possessions where Gafford or Lively were helping pretty hard off of big Jalen Williams if he was in the corner. In the last game, he made a couple threes, and this one, he didn't make any shots. Within this, I mean, you've got Isaiah Joe making a three off of a Chet pin down that was really good, where the defense wasn't bad, but it was still a really good shot. Or the crazy one he had to close the first half, or, J-Dub was able to get going versus Gafford when he could get him on a screen to get into some pull-up twos, or I think there was a player too where J-Dub was able to get by Luka on a switch. So, OKC was still able to get some things. But again, I do think between, the way they messed with some of the matchups, having some really solid one-on-one defense all over the place, on top of getting 10 extra shot attempts than OKC did because of the offensive rebounding, I think it led to OKC's offense not being as good as it could be. And yeah, I mean, OKC, they had a 104 offensive rating. Now, granted, Dallas had a 108 offensive rating. It was definitely a defensive game. I mean, Chet had 4 blocks. SGA had 5 blocks. I mean, SGA had 31, but they got 13 misses out of him. But SGA has still been good. He's sometimes getting the Luka switch going into a step-back throw. Though Luka held up really well on a possession that was one of the last ones where Lively then slid over from the corner. I think he was ignoring a big Jalen Williams in the corner, and then they forced a pass out of SGA there. But yeah, I mean, he had a step-back three over Gafford, I think it was, that was good. I mean, drawing two and then finding Isaiah Joe. Signature, just SGA pull-up twos and everything that happened throughout the game. But still, I think overall, Dallas, they did a pretty okay job on him. Anyway, to go to the other side of this, PJ Washington, he just keeps making threes, man. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, why is OKC leaving guys open from three? I would say it all year. They leave guys open from three because they make the bank of, you're going to make some of these. You're not going to make enough to kill us, especially because we're going to turn you over. We're going to overwhelm you with all of our help defense. I do the spiel every time I talk about the Thunder. With that said, Dallas, they didn't go insane from three. I mean, they were 11 for 33. They were 6 for 14 specifically on corner threes. And it was funny because one of PJ's missed threes was basically halfway down when they were leaving them pretty open. Besides that, I want to talk about Kyrie, who throughout the game, similar to the previous game, was just making a lot of solid plays. The 2 plays I remember the most, well, like 3 plays. 2 of them weren't even assists. One of them was that crazy time where it was Kaysen and it was Chet who were all over him, and he somehow gets between them and to throw the bounce pass to Gafford for the dunk. And then like a couple plays where it's like a Gafford screen where they ran, I think Luka as a first screener, which kind of drew more attention from OKC, and Jalen Williams, big Jalen Williams, was high up on the action to where SGA had to be the help guy from the corner on Gafford rolling, and I mean, Kyrie just threw a great pass to him, and so it's a foul. Not an assist, but great play. Another time where Josh Green screened for Kyrie, gets to the middle of the floor, and then he makes the flip to, I think that it was either Lively or Gafford who drew a foul. So once again, Kyrie being a very good passer in the series. Then in the fourth quarter, he said, all right, let me beat Kyrie Irving. Well, first off, they ran like an off-ball set with like him and Tim Hardaway where Chet was dropping back on the screen. So we had all the daylight in the world. Another one where they did the same thing, but this time it was Hardaway getting the 3, where Gordon Hayward and like the 2 Gordon Hayward minutes we got totally dies on the action completely. And then Chet was also dropping back. But yeah, fourth quarter, Kyrie. I mean, the big one was the one he got J-Dub on, where J-Dub was playing some pretty physical defense. Not saying he was fouling, it was physical defense, that's fine. And then the lefty hook floater thing. For that, he beats Wiggins in a 1v1 for a floater, turnaround jumper over J-Dub, turnaround jumper over Lou Dort. It was a really good Kyrie game, man. And then as far as Luka, 15 rebounds, 3 of them offensive. I mean, I don't think you need like a super deep take on this one. Like, he's facing a very good defensive team. He's clearly not 100%. And so sometimes you're going to get like him not being able to create as much separation as you really like to off of a couple of these screens. And he's got to improvise with something. One of the times being like this crazy up and under where he did like 2 or 3 different fakes on Lou Dort. Or one where he busts out like just enough crossovers to get the angle on Dort, and then SGA comes over, and then I think Chet came over as well, so he's like nearly falling down, and he just tosses something up that goes in. Like, Luka's just going to have to keep on getting these just grinded out buckets. But yeah, it was a good game.